We are good to go. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us for the first webinar of our three-part mini webinar series. I'm going to give you a few more seconds to join before we officially get started with our presentation today. Good morning. Happy Monday. Kicking off a new week, new month. Can't believe we're already in February. All right. A few more seconds. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. This webinar will be recorded, so for the ones that are going to be joining us a little bit later, if you missed the first part of it, that's totally fine. Again, we're going to have it stored somewhere for you to watch and catch up on. But let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started, though, I do want to go over a few what we call housekeeping things. This is a webinar, so we cannot see or hear you. But if you would like to communicate directly with me, you can feel free to use the chat box. That is a good source of way to communicate with me if you have any thing that you need me to know. And then also for questions, definitely use the Q&A box for those. We will have someone monitoring those questions throughout this webinar today. So place your questions there. And then towards the end of the webinar, I will also take some questions if you all have some as well. All right, so meet the presenter, meet me. My name is Chelsea Williams. I am the coordinator of external training and partnerships here at the Get to College program, which is a Get to College program of the Woodward Hines Education Foundation. So I'm super excited to be updating you guys on StudentAid.gov account today. So happy to be here. Now let's get into our agenda. So we have went through welcome. We have went through introductions, getting to know me a little bit. But the first thing we're going to go over is some reminders, right? So I want to make sure that you are reminded of the things when it comes to StudentAid.gov accounts. And then also we're going to then transition into learning about the new update. So what you're here for today, learning about that new updated process when it comes to creating the StudentAid.gov accounts. And then we're going to actually go through a walkthrough. So we're not going to go to the prototype or anything, but we are going to go through screenshots. So we do have screenshots that are available. So we'll walk through that. And then to wrap it up, we're going to answer any questions that you may have when it comes to this process. So again, for those of you who don't know, we are going to be talking about the new updated process for the StudentAid.gov account. So let's get into our reminders, things that you need to keep in mind with this process. So the first thing is FSA ID, okay? It's what we used for years. This was what we would call, and it's basically just your username and your password to get you into your StudentAid.gov account that you would then use to log into your FAFSA to either create or to complete your FAFSA, or if you need to go in and update anything, this is the username and password that you would use. But now we are changing this terminology, updating this terminology to StudentAid.gov account, okay? So this is something that I have struggled with. Us here at Get to College have struggled with having to remind ourselves, because it is definitely something that we have used, as I said, for years, but it is now referred to, FSA ID is now referred to StudentAid.gov account. So just keep that in mind. Also, no longer do new accounts need to wait 3 days to log in. So no more FSA ID or StudentAid.gov account days. it is now, your account is now immediately verified through the Social Security Administration. So I think that's pretty commonly known. The FAFSA has been open since October. So for those of you that have been completing the FAFSA since then and creating those accounts, you know this by now, but just wanted to keep you in the know there and remind you of those processes here. So this is the first reminder. Now let's go into our second reminder. Okay, so StudentAid.gov account process for parents without Social Security numbers. So the first things first, undocumented students still are not eligible for federal student aid. So this process is only for parents of an eligible non-citizen or U.S. citizen student. So the process that I'm referring to is the creation of a StudentAid.gov account. Okay, so just a reminder for those students that are undocumented, they will not be able to receive federal student aid. They have to be an eligible non-citizen or a U.S. citizen student. But if they are eligible non-citizen student, or if their parents, they can create a StudentAid.gov account. And so that process is very similar to those who do have Social Security numbers, but there is a box for them to select, for them to check that says they do not have a Social Security number, and then they'll be able to go throughout that process, entering in all their information that way. But then at the end of the creation process, they will be a screen would appear that will have what we call TransUnion questions, if they have them. Some of them may not even have TransUnion questions, and so they would need to answer those questions correctly. If they do not answer those questions correctly, they will not be verified immediately, but that's okay. This is the second point of the reminder, which is parents without Social Security numbers still need a StudentAid.gov account, but there is still no process for manual identity verification. So at this time, there is no process for it, but definitely the biggest thing to note here for those parents is that they can still contribute to their students' FAFSA. So that there's no concern there, but just keep in mind that eventually they will have to, but as of right now, there is no manual identification verification. So just keep those two things in mind when you're working with your students and families that this scenario fits. All right, so now let's get into what you guys came here for today, which is the update, the new process for StudentAid.gov account. Okay, so let's talk about the changes. Okay, so with the StudentAid.gov account creation process that has been updated, there has been a simplification. They have simplified the process as much as possible. And so they have reduced the number of required fields from 23 to 12. And so that includes the removal of challenge questions, the backup copy code confirmation, and any duplicate entry fields. Okay, so this process again has simplified and streamlined those steps. And so what that has done was that has shrunk the flow from 8 to 6 pages. So the process is shorter, and we'll go over in just a second the reason for that. And so another thing that has changed with this process is the verify of email and phone. So as you know, we living in the world of authentication. So having your account verified via email and phone number, having those 6-digit codes. Well, before you used to have to wait until the end to get those verified, but now you will enter in your phone, you'll immediately verify that, enter in your email, and you'll immediately verify that. So there's no need to wait until the end of the process for that to take place. So those are some changes there. Now let's talk about some changes continued. So we have some more here. The language preference, okay? So now you can switch your language preference at the beginning. So there's no need for you to have to, before you used to have to wait until you got to a certain step, and then that would have forced you to restart and then have that language preference there. But now it has moved, and now you can select that language preference at the start of the flow, okay? Challenge questions. So as I mentioned, challenge questions have been removed. So if you were to go in with a student or a family today to create their StudentAid.gov account, there will be no challenge questions for them to have to complete. However, prior to this process being taking place, as we know for years, challenge questions was a part of the StudentAid.gov account creation process. And so because of that, students who had that option can still use that option as a recovery option. So if they do get locked out or don't remember their password or username, they can use that option for the foreseeable future. It's undetermined if that option will go away, but for right now, if they were presented with challenge questions, that is still a means for them to recover their account. But unfortunately for those students that are creating their account as of today and on forward, they will not have that option. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, the last bullet point, phone number can now be used by two people. So now let's talk about exactly what that means. So prior, if your phone number was, let's say you're working with a student and family who's had a phone number, they got a new phone, and unfortunately it was tied to someone else's account, and so they couldn't verify their phone number, right? You had to go through a bunch of sticky things, had to call FSA 100, all the things, right? So now, if you have working with a student, if you're working with a student and family who has a phone number where it is tied to someone else's account, they will now be able to add that phone number into their account creation. They would then be sent a code, and if they enter that code, their phone number will now be verified on their account, and it will no longer be verified on the previous account that phone number was attached to. And then also, there will also be no notice to that person that their phone number was removed or placed on another account. So there's no worry about that as well. So basically what this bullet point is that now your phone number can be used by two people, so you can have that phone number on your account. So there's no need for any concerns around that if you have a new number and it's worried that it is tied to a previous account of another person. So that is a change as well. Now, let's talk about some goals, right? So FSA has created this process, this simplified process. Now let's talk about why, right? So they wanted to make the account creation faster, right? So they did this by reducing those required steps. And they also wanted it to be a little bit smoother. So currently it takes over 10 minutes on average to create an account. So they wanted their users to get to their tasks a lot more quickly, such as completing the FAFSA, going in if they need to do anything with student loans, anything of that nature. So they want to make the account creation faster. The next thing is they wanted to reduce abandonment, okay? So within the flow by front loading the most critical steps. So currently 12% of the users will reach that final two-step verification page and then abandon before they actually successfully create their account. So they want and they hope that this process being simplified will reduce that abandonment issue there. And then lastly, they want to reduce the call volumes, right? So they say they get an estimated of 8,000 calls a month regarding creating an account. So they're hoping that this simplified process makes it a lot easier, user-friendly for students and families to create their StudentAid.gov account without having to, now obviously call if you need, but if hopefully you don't need to, and you're able to create your account successfully with no issues there, okay? So that's a little bit about the process. Not too much has changed, but enough to be that you will notice, especially if you've been doing this a while. So we definitely wanted to give you all of the information that we have about this updated process. And so now that we went over that, now let's see what this looks like. So we're going to walk through some screenshots of what this looks like today. So if you were to log into StudentAid.gov account today to create an account, this is what you would see. The landing page or the first page is still similar. You're going to have to enter in those identification things, your first name, your last name, date of birth. Here, as you can see, where Social Security number. As I mentioned, if you are dealing with a student or a family that does not have social security number and the student is a non-eligible student. But the parent, of course, this is what you will select. What if I do not have a social security number? And they'll be able to go through that process that way. Once they fill out that, they'll then be brought to a page where they will enter in their email address. So they will need to enter in the email address because that is a requirement for the account creation process. They will then immediately, as I mentioned before, have to verify their email. So they will need to enter in that 6-digit code that comes to their email. Could take a second, but once they get it, they'll enter in that code here. So that's why it's always important. We always say, especially if you have attended FAFSA trainings with us in the past, that it's important that they have a working email and a working phone number so that they can get these 6-digit codes sent to them as they are creating their account. So the next is a phone number. Okay, so they're able to put in a phone number here where they will also be need to enter in that 6-digit phone number as well, or 6-digit code for that phone number as well, which is where they will verify their phone number. And so we want to go ahead and verify both just in case they do run into any issues with having to recover their account. It makes the recovery and the troubleshooting process a lot easier, a lot smoother if they have those accounts verified that way. So wanted to show you all that. Now, the next page is you're entering your mailing address. So you're going to enter in your mailing address. You'll also be asked what are your required communications. So you can enter that in as well. Then you're brought to create your username and create your password. So you'll create the student's username. They'll create their password, something that they can remember, and confirm that and continue on to the next page. And so then this is brought to the Authenticator app. And so this is also another way for them to log into their account. It can be used as an extra protection piece if they want, just to secure their account a little bit more. So if they want to set up an Authenticator app, they can by scanning that QR code and going through that process. If not, they don't have to. They can continue on to the next page, which is it shows them their verification method. So it shows them that their email has been verified, it shows them that their phone number has been verified. If they do choose to use the Authenticator app, they'll see here also that has been verified. And then that backup code. So a backup code is also another method that they can use for troubleshooting if they need to recover their account for whatever reason. So they can use that backup code for that, and they can copy that and store that somewhere safely. So if they need it, they'll have it. Okay. All right, and so now that brings us to our financial aid data sheet. So for those of you that have been working with us for a while, you know that we have a financial aid data sheet where we use here in our office when we meet with students and families, but also at FAFSA days. It's just our sheet here to hopefully keep students a little bit more organized by having all of that information that they entered in through the account creation process on here. So when they come back next year, because the FAFSA, as long as they desire federal aid, they will need to renew that FAFSA annually. And so it's good to have this stored somewhere safely, and I repeat, somewhere safely, so that they'll be able to remember that information if it doesn't come straight, on their mind for that. So we do offer that. It is on our website. If you want to scan this QR code, I also believe that my colleague is putting it in the chat as well. We do have that. Also at the bottom, we have Mississippi Aid. So we do complete both at the same time, and definitely encourage students to do the same. And when they create their Mississippi Aid application, they can go ahead and put that username and password on there as well. So great resource. Definitely encourage you to check it out if you have not. Again, by scanning that QR code, and then also the link is in the chat. Okay. So that brings us up on 10 minutes left into the webinar. If we have any questions, I definitely would You can take the time now to answer those if you have anything. Okay. So no questions as of yet. It's totally fine. If you ever think of anything, we will see in just a second. We'll have our email, and you can definitely email us any questions that you may have, any questions that you may run into. We'll definitely we're happy to help, here to help. But before we wrap up with our webinar for today, I do want to take a moment to put a plug here for our other two webinars that we have. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a three-part series. So come back and join us on next Monday. Definitely register on our website, and that link is also being put in the chat now. So next Monday, we're going to be talking about updates to the form, so changes to the FAFSA. And so we'll cover all the updated communication that we have from FSA on certain updates that will be essential for your advising and outreach efforts. And then our last webinar, which is one we're really excited about, is you get full 30 minutes of asking an FAFSA expert on all the questions that you may have. And so once you register for this on our website, we'll actually have a box there for you to answer in any questions that you would like for him to answer. But then also, if you forget or you forget to ask a specific question on there, he'll definitely take them live as well. So we're really excited about that. We encourage you to come ready with your questions. And even if you don't have questions, come ready to hear the questions of others. It may spark something in you that maybe you didn't know you had a question about. So we definitely encourage you to join us for these quick webinars just to keep you updated on all things FAFSA. Now, as I mentioned, here is our email. So if you have any questions, definitely encourage you to screenshot this here, take a picture. And even if it's not anything related to StudentAid.gov account, if there's anything that we can do here at Get to College when it comes to college access, financial aid, FAFSA, whatever, we'll be glad to help you in the best way that we can. So that is all I had today. Very short, very sweet, in the updates when it came to StudentAid.gov account process. As I mentioned, not too much, but enough for you to notice the difference. So we thank you guys for joining us, and we hope you have a fantastic rest of your Monday. Bye.